Our breeding heifer show is going to be starting in 10 minutes. Breeding heifer show will be starting in 10 minutes at the show ring.
Yes, first of all, good morning. Be awesome morning here going through our cattle and this first class, and I guess our only two heifers here. We start off pretty challenging, and I'll describe both of them and then kind of show you which one I like here. But two really good heifers to kick off with. This one that came in first up front, again, a stunning heifer just in terms of her look and her presence. She's got the right kind of length of body to her, but yet there's some power there, lots of width and stoutness, but yet she still functions with it in an appropriate manner in terms of her length of stride and her looseness and flexibility. Probably if you're directly comparing the two, she's got just a little more shoulder, maybe just a little more coarseness about her, but again, to have that power, she still handles it, I think, in a very good way. And what makes it challenging, this other heifer here, this black and white one, she's so smooth, lays into her shoulder nicely, transitions into just her rib and her forerib and her rib cage in a nice way, and she's not devoid of muscle herself. There's some width when you get in behind her, very flat and smooth jointed. She's got a little more size to her, and that's okay as well. Maybe the thing I tweak on her, she gets just a little vertical there in her knee and her shoulder, and I like to relax her and set her back in that angle. And so again, two heifers, just kind of depends on your flavor and what you like. I don't think you can be wrong either one of these two you pick. Probably the one that probably mimics more of the stuff we try to raise is the one up front. Going to use her to be our champion here today. Black and white heifer will be reserved. But let's give them both an round of applause. Two outstanding females.
Your champion breeding heifer went to Taya Martinez, and your reserve went to Grayson Kirkendall. Congratulations. Our steer show is going to begin right at 10 o'clock, so 10 minutes, guys. Please bring all your Class 1 steers to the show ring. Class 1 steers to the show ring.
really a good lightweight class to get us started, and an eventful one here for the young guy with the red calf here. That calf just wanted to show off how sound structured he was. That's all. When he gets out here, runs and bucks, that's just good market animal. Body shape, the way he handles over his rib and loin is very, very good. He's got the right amount of muscle when you get him behind him. But probably what sold it for me, despite him running around, study his angles, study his joints, study his feet. He's just the soundest, most practical built one in terms of his feet and legs there as well. There's enough show steer there. There's a few out here that maybe are a little neater necked and neater headed and those things, but shoulder back, that's just good livestock. Does a lot of good. And once he starts to settle down out here, you can really start to see it. So congratulations to him. A nice calf there, lead us off. Black steer we have here in second. I love his shape. I love his lower quarter dimension he has. He handles and grabs pretty big there over his back. And again, he's got some depth and he's opened up in terms of his heart and his forerib. I like to set his shoulder into him just a little differently, that calf. And then when they're out on the go, I like to see him set down just a little more comfortable off of his rear step. But that's a meat wagon in terms of just shape and width and product. Still got enough look and presence here. I'll take some debate with these next two, and I go back and forth on them. But finally drew the line. Both of these calves I like to correct in their structure, and this red calf's not blessed with the hair coat here, but that's just, to me, a better market animal. I love his back shape. I love his length. I love his size. He may be as appropriate in terms of just cutability and size as anything out here amongst this group. What gets him in trouble, though, he's just a little awkward off either side of his skeleton. He gets a little outside himself and up on his feet. But, man, that's a long-sided, good-looking one that's got some shape and product. And, boy, if he had a different haircut, you wonder what he really would get to looking like. This little heifer that comes here next, again, bold rib, extremely muscular, extremely big back for what she is. You just got to make that call. If she's not too small for you, you can move her up right there with old Red that won the class. For me, she's starting to approach that point in a lightweight class even. She's smaller. I want to change the way she drives off of her rear skeleton and her structure there a little bit. But, man, that's a neat looking one, not just because of her color, but we've got to present it right. We've got her fed to the best of our ability. Just one needs a little more length, a little more size all the way through. Calf that comes here next, again, a bigger calf in terms of just width and stoutness. He's good. I like his upper skeleton way in which it works. He looks just a little higher in his flank. He's a little twisted maybe there up front. Just doesn't have maybe the length of stride some of those other ones tended to have ahead of him. And then the one that closed our class, that might be as good looking, a good presence of any calf in here in terms of just length and cleanness. But at the same time, he's probably the most immature, the most juvenile out here in terms of finish and condition. Just needs quite a bit more time relative to those ones ahead of him. But outstanding lightweight class to get us started.
Class 1, first place went to Calibra Harvey, Cottonwood 4-H. Second place, Bryson Morales, Loving FFA. Third place, Abby Nichols, Blue Jeans and Boots. Fourth place, Ty Crook, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth place, JC Smith, Country Clovers. Sixth place, Miles Klein, Blue Jeans and Boots. Please bring all your Class 2 steers to the show ring. Class 2 steers to the show ring.
another really good class, and I think these two sort off pretty handily. And again, I try not to make it all about the presentation, because not everybody's blessed to have that kind of crew. And I think when you look underneath the presentation, these are still fundamentally two of the better cattle. I like beef animals, and that's what this one looks like up front. It just looks like a beef animal. That one opens up awesome on the backside of his shoulder in terms of just shape and product. He's so much better in the rib and the boldness and spring of his rib than what the calf there in second is. He's got some width when you get in behind him. He's heavy enough bone. And then when he gets out on the go, to me, there's still some goodness in terms of his structure, his flexibility. Things fit together. Probably things I'd change about that calf. He's a little cresty neck. He's got a little shoulder to him there. I'd even just open up his pins ever so slightly to match his base width, and that's being picky. That's a dimensional steer that's robust and powerful, and still has enough balance and show steer pieces to him. This one here in second, he's the profiler of the two. I mean, so long and so extended. I love his length of hip, lays into his shoulder, incredibly smooth, got a long neck in him, and then it's still one when you get him behind him, he's not devoid of muscle. He's got some width back there. For me, though, I like to see more shape, but mainly right when you get your hands on top of these two cattle and just study the rib cage, study them from a front three-quarter view, he's just not as opened up right there in terms of just his forerib. To me, it makes sense that he's not as wide and bold in his top shape either. There's just less muscle there. But if that one's got enough muscle for you, you switch those two, because that's the prettier one of the pair. That's a little neater about his neck and front end. Powerhouse here in third. I mean, just muscular and pretty dominant in terms of muscle shape and body dimension within this class. And still one, I think, when he's parked standing still, you can draw some things into him in terms of his cleanness of neck. His structure becomes a problem. If that one's sounder, if that one's a little more correct on his feet and legs, he may fight with that first one for our top spot in this class. But because that one is unmatched in this class, and just in terms of how robust, how powerful he is, I just want to see him function better in terms of the way he goes. Calf they're going to leave here next in fourth. He's smooth made. He's probably a little more comfortable moving than the one I set ahead of him. My problem with him is a little flatter bodied. I want to see that calf handle with quite a bit more condition. Even at this 1,100-pound state, I still like to see that one just softer and just a little more fat steer there, if you will, in terms of his handle. He's a smooth made one, though. Just takes a long, comfortable stride. Still a nice kind of cattle. Black and white steer here, incredible profile, up-headed. He loves his shape. He's real high cutability type steer that's got some lower quarter and some definition of muscle to him. Just gets out-bodied in this class. Not the same kind of fat cover, not the same kind of softness we find in those cattle ahead of him. Kind of the opposite to be said with the one we closed the class with. That one's been fed, but almost too well. That's a good converter. And again, that's a good and a bad thing about cattle like that. He's got plenty on him, but probably to the point at that size is starting to jeopardize his cutability a little bit, jeopardize his look just a little. But boy, you love his body, you love his ability to put on finish, and still a sound calf. So again, very competitive set of steers. Nice pair there up top.
Class 2, first place went to Mason Golden, Cottonwood 4-H. Second place, Bailey Verdon, Artesia FFA. Third place, Abby Nichols, Blue Jeans and Boots. Fourth place, Kendi Jo Burnett, Penasco 4-H. Fifth place, Jack Jerva, Country Clovers. And sixth place, Maritza Varelis, Cottonwood 4-H. Please bring all your Class 3 steers to the show ring. Class 3 steers to the show ring.
Very interesting class to try to figure out and put together. And I think where it becomes hard for me is, again, I wanted to make these things as representative of a beef animal as I can, but yet I like to still keep their structure in line and still keep some functional things in check there that's going to provide them the ability to get and go where they need to. And again, it's easy to grab this white one here. Just he's got so much presence and stoutness. He's probably the combination of muscle shape that I like. He handles with some condition on him, but yet there's some look. I just got one concern. Never that I didn't think about starting a class with him, just one spot I like to change him, and it's his front knee and front skeleton. He can get a little easy and forward on there, make a guy just a little uncomfortable, but I think he still steps his track with enough looseness and length. He's just got so much more look and shape and presence to him in this class, allows him to get along and get the win here. Probably the soundest calf of the class is the one here in second. I love just his looseness, his flexibility, the angularity to his joints are right, the way he sits down. I guess my reservation with him, being a person that likes muscle, I want to see more shape in that calf. He just gets a little played out in his quarter, a little flatter there. He's wide pin, he grabs wide over his loin. I just want to beef that calf up just a shade, but boy, his structure, his build is just functional and practical kind. I think that's why I like him sitting here in second. This one here we got in third. Again, wouldn't argue with you, say he's just touch more of a beef animal than the one in second, because he is just so robust and so opened up, really big in his hip, really bold in his body, and still got enough look up front. Problem is, again, he gets just a little awkward and outside himself when he gets on the go. He starts to put forth a little more chest that takes away from his look, but I love his power, love his stoutness here. These next three, what took me so long is that they're hard to put together to figure out what the exact right placing is of them. This one's length and cutability probably intrigued me just a little more than the one right behind him. He's got more shape up top. I want to change his rear skeleton and the way in which he handles it, just a little frailer and underneath himself, and then gets outside himself just a shade. Probably the more solid fat steer of the three in terms of just condition and ability to get fat is this one that comes next. He's a little long-toed. Now, and that caused him to get up on his ankles and get just a little awkward when he goes and not as muscular. This red one's a hard one for me because, boy, if we can change just the way he's assembled up front, I love the muscle shape. I love the hip dimension in that calf. I just like the back of him. He's just a little harsher handling, but more so just the positioning of his shoulder allows him to rock forward just a little much, and got to draw that line somewhere, unfortunately for him, but that's still a solid calf in terms of muscle and power, but a good class of steers. Good job. Hang on.
Class 3, first place went to Mason Golden, Cottonwood 4-H. Second place went to Jordan Hamill, Artesia FFA. Third place, Kaylin Wood, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth place, Jersey Smith, Country Clovers. Fifth place, Miles Klein, Blue Jeans and Boots. And sixth place, Abby Nichols, Blue Jeans and Boots. Please bring all your Class 4 steers to the show ring. Class 4 steers to the show ring.
Another interesting class here, and again, I think one that grabs your attention very, very quickly here. That's going to lead off our class again is his look, his presence, his posture, his structure seems to be the best of this group, and still his frame size in relation to his weight I think is very, very appropriate. I like the body shape in this calf as well. Again, you get behind him, you almost think, man, that's too good to be true, to be that wide pin and that opened up, and that's why I was handling it there a little more just to make sure we're genuine enough in terms of pleasing me. But you can't really deny that one today in this class, at least just for that kind of presence, look, and combination of things. He's real good. These next two, again, I take some debate. We can go back and forth, but if we're truly in the business of teaching these kids what good fundamental market cattle look like, this is good fundamental market cattle right here. You'd feed 100 of these any day, any time. That kind of body shape, that kind of rib cage, his ability to put on finish at this weight is awesome. He still has some product to him, but yet his structure's still functional, and he still goes. Is there enough show steer there for the truly show steer enthusiast? Probably not. You can make him a little longer and cooler and add some hair. That's just good livestock, though, that if you did add a little more hair, a little more length and coolness, he might be up there with the dark gray one that beat him. The calf we have here in third, again, length is good. Heaviness of bone and structure is good. His looseness of structure is good. If you want to say that's more of the show steer of the pair, you can switch those because he grabs good over his back. I wish there was just a little more body and softness to that calf. He hits me as a little tall and a little leggy at that weight. I like to see just quite a bit more softness and an easier doing look to that steer, but he's still good kind of livestock in terms of muscle and cutability. This one here was a hard one for me because there's times that I love his show steer pieces as far as his look and his neck set and the way he sets up there. He grabs really good over his back. We've done an awesome job feeding this one in terms of condition is concerned. Get right in behind him, he's just lacking in terms of that muscle and shape as you get down low. And then if he was moving just a little bit better in terms of looseness, maybe I would have walked him up there a little higher. He just gets a little tighter, a little more uncomfortable as he goes. But man, that kind of look, the color, the presence that calf has, there's still a lot of good there. Steer that comes here next, again, lots of boldness to his body. He's got some hip and some muscle, just a little harsher in his finish yet. Again, at this 1300, I like to see him just a little softer and starting to put condition on in the right way, and he's just a little behind in that regard. The same thing can be said for the black and white one that closes for us. Boldness of skeleton is good, muscle shape is good, just one's a little raw in his body, a little raw in terms of his condition. Like to see him quite a bit further along in terms of finish. But outstanding class, neat calf there up top.
Class 4, first place, Jordan Hamill, Artesia FFA. Second place, Kendi Jo Burnett, Penasco 4-H. Third place, Grayson Kirkendall, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth place, Kaylee Shockey, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth place, JC Smith, Country Clovers. And sixth place, Samuel Fodge, Cottonwood 4-H. Please bring all your Class 7, no, I apologize. Class 5 steers to the show ring. Class 5 steers to the show ring.
and do some things. And I think the thing that makes it hard is they're all four completely different. They're all completely different kinds of good, but there's still some subtle differences between them as far as the positive attributes they put together that kind of makes things make sense to me. So I took a little longer on it just to make sure I got things straight in my mind and what I wanted to do. We're going to leave them just like they stand, just like this. I think the two more problem-free cattle in this class are the first and second, this black and white one. And I'll be honest, there was no doubt I was starting with this black one. Again, he's not the most aggressive in his turn of muscle, but that's a wide-based, bold-bodied one that's still got the show steer look, the show steer presence. He's unmatched in terms of his structure out here as well as looseness and comfort, but yet he keeps it on within parallel with the edges of his skeleton, doesn't get outside of himself, doesn't come in, handles tremendously well over his back and his loin, but boy, just the longer and longer they're out here, the more and more you find yourself gravitating to that calf and the less things that you want to change about him. It's just a really nice steer. This slick one's not for everybody. I grew up in South Texas. We learned to value cattle that don't have hair, and I just kept asking myself, if this one had the yellow calf's hair, would I really be making this a discussion? And I decided no, I wouldn't. I think his cutability's better. I think the way he handles is better. I think the fact that he has fat on him, but he's just a shade trimmer everywhere makes sense to me. I love that calf's just smoothness. The way things fit together from his shoulder all the way back to his hip, it all fits together nicely. His foot quality and the way he lands is very, very, very good. He's not the prettiest headed animal out there, and probably the most distracting thing is how to gauge him on width most of the times because he doesn't have that dominant hair coat. That's still a wide pin one that's aggressive in his shape. In terms of back shape, he's the best of those initial three. Just wanted to clean him up and pretty him up just a shade there up front. That's a nice calf. Again, you find a lot less holes in. Big Yellow, here's an interesting one. We could run home and start him and just say he's the heaviest muscled, boldest one of the crew, and it sounded enough, and you could justify it. I wouldn't be too mad at you for that. When I handle that calf, though, he hits me as just a little soft. I like to see just more shape to that calf, particularly right behind his shoulder. He looks like he's got a real big back, but maybe grabs a little narrower there. I want to do something different off of his rear legs and the way he travels. He gets just a little uncoordinated. Impressive calf, though, there at the standstill, just in terms of his burliness and his stoutness here. This black calf we run here next and fourth, again, another hard one for me. I love how sculpted this calf is up front. I love his depth of body and his smoothness, and even his range of motion is not a problem. When I get on top of this calf, that's where I find fault with him. I want to open that calf up quite a bit more in terms of top shape and give him more meat up there, open him up in terms of his pins. This young cat does a good job of getting him pulled together and set up, and boy, he can grab you, but the longer you study him, the more he just looks a little narrow at the top of his skeleton. Want to open him up and maybe loosen him just a shade. There's no doubt about it, the biggest backed, heaviest muscle calf in the class is this one that comes next. He is aggressive in terms of top shape. He is huge right there behind his shoulder, keeps that same advantage all the way throughout as you get to study him. I guess for me, as I got off of him, to me, structure-wise, he's probably the most uncomfortable of those four when you really start to study his feet and legs. He's a little bigger headed and bigger fronted, throws off maybe his balance to the rest of him, and probably just need to soften him a touch. I think if you soften him a touch, it makes everything else make sense and blend. That is a big, big back creature right there that I just want to see move quite a bit more coordinated, more correctly. Black and white one that comes out here next, really soft side, really smooth. We've done an incredible job presenting this one and getting him looking the part. Just not enough calf there in terms of muscle and width. Gets a little narrower gauged all the way through. Then the big gray steer, again, good honest cattle. I think, again, been fed well. He's got some bone, he's got some foot, and they work real well. Probably within this setting in a class this tough, he looked the least like a show steer out here. Maybe didn't have quite the look and presence and expression of muscle that we find in those cattle ahead of him. Still good, solid livestock, though. That's a good class. Let's give those kids a nice round of applause.
Class 5 steers went to first place went to Bailey Verdon, Artesia FFA. Second place went to Aspen Hughes, Country Clovers. Third place, Kaylee Bennett, Artesia FFA. Fourth place, Caden Golden, Artesia FFA. Fifth place, Ty Martinez, Loving 4-H. Sixth place, Grayson Kirkendorf, Cottonwood 4-H. Seventh place, Kendi Joe Burnett, Penasco 4-H.
really a nice set of steers we've had out here, and cattle in general, with the 2 heifers we saw earlier today as well. But I guess first of all, I thank you guys for having me out. Again, a little bit of a drive and a journey, but I've enjoyed it. I like working with your young folks around here. Again, I think it's important to be competitive, and they are, but yet, man, they're so respectful still, and I love the way they root for each other there as well. Again, never forget, we're so blessed to do what we do, and the way we get to do it. I try not to take that for granted every day of my life. My kids show, and we absolutely are ate up with this and love it. Just got to be careful not to idolize it and fudge the rules and do things that maybe don't look as godly to those on the outside world when you're explaining what you do and how you're growing these kids. And so I applaud you as a community for the support you put together for these kids. Again, I just give everybody a big round of applause that exhibited calves today. I'll briefly go through these just because I think there's a lot of things a person could do with this lineup and justify. Little Red was a good way to start. Again, I like those cattle that just fundamental, and that's what he is. Good from his shoulder back, awesome in his shape up top. I love the soundness of his feet and legs, and again, his ability to go ahead and be a fat steer, put on finish is very, very good. You compare him to the rest of these, maybe just a shop planer, not as aggressive in terms of shape of muscle, but still a good calf. Black calf that came out of the next class, again, just went up a level, and I like that calf quite a bit. Just his foot, his bone, what he represents in terms of body mass, and his top shape is very, very good. He's a little thick-headed, a little crusty-necked, but he's just stout everywhere. It kind of matches with him. Maybe make his hip just a little longer out here, a little prettier up front, but boy, still a neat steer in terms of just being a good bovine, a good beef animal. Interesting one that came out of the next class is this white one. I love his shape. I love just the terminal way in which he's built up top. The boldness of his rib cage is good. He's so pretty up front. Just got to figure out where you are on his front skeleton. If you're going to call it good enough, he can win this whole show in a landslide just because of his cutability, his look, and presence. But you just got to make that call where you are on his knees and his front skeleton there, but still a very, very solid calf. Big gray one came out here. Again, a big bone, big hip calf. Awesome in terms of the shape and design of his body. Still has a show steer look and presence to him. Gets around and travels in a very, very good way. You know, at times he doesn't maybe look as soft as a few of these other ones out here, but I think too that's a lack of a hair, probably more so than anything on him. Big monster hip, and like I talked about in class, I want to keep him as genuine as we can, and just with the handling that, just to make sure what was there. But boy, still his combination of traits, his muscle, his width, his soundness, his presence, still very, very good. Then that tough class, this black one came out of. I still think he, in my mind, won that class rather easily as far as there's just not a lot wrong with the steer. Again, with the base is good. Structure and his outline are very, very good. He's a show steer that's still a fat steer. You get your hands on him, he's still got plenty on him. He handles good in terms of his shape up top. He is expressively muscled in terms of just turn and shape to his lower quarter as a few of these other ones. No, he's not, and that's maybe where I change him. Jesus is the only thing perfect that ever walked this earth, and so I don't expect him to be, and that's where I'd maybe just enhance him in terms of his shape. But boy, he makes up for it with just his width of chest, his width of base, his ability to be a fat steer is still very, very good, yet there's still a superb show steer mixed in there with it. So again, a very, very good set of them. I congratulate all you kids for finishing a project and getting on, and good luck to you as you go down the road. One more time, let's give these kids a round of applause. I'll show you two I like best. We'll bring that second again out of that tough class, and again, probably for some he's hard to read because he doesn't have any hair, but boy, that's a smooth one. That's a well-built one. I like his fundamentals. I like his feet and legs, and really we can have a discussion about him and his gray one and go back and forth. Maybe a little more dynamic pieces in terms of width, but maybe a little coarse in the way it fits together. Again, I like the way this one comes together in terms of the smoothness and fat steerability. I like that class quite well. We're going to keep those two together. Shungaleo second, that class will be reserved.
Your Grand Champion Market Steer went to Bailey Verdon out of Class 5, and your Reserve Champion went to Aspen Hughes, also out of Class 5. Congratulations.